Here's what happens. The sower goes out to sow the seed, and the first part of the seed that he sows falls by the wayside, and the birds get it. Now, I want you to understand the scenario. Here's what's very important for leaders to engage in. To teach the inevitable. It's very important to teach the inevitable. Key for leadership. Leaders must understand birds. Why? Birds are going to get part of the seed. It's called inevitable. And if you don't teach inevitability, people will be all upset. They won't know what to expect. We must all be prepared for what we call eventualities, the inevitable. So here's part of the scenario. The sower goes out to sow the seed, and the birds get some. He sows some more seed, and the birds get it. Now, this is a typical story of life. Is that fairly typical? Fairly typical. The birds are going to get some of the seed. Some of you building an organization, right? You're out recruiting. Say, John, I've got an important story for you to listen to. Could be the change of your life, earn some extra money, or make it a full-time venture, whatever. But come and take a look. And he says, well, I think I'm ready for something like that. Thursday night, I'll see you, and let's go through it all. You say, wonderful. Comes Thursday night. John isn't there. Hey, where is John? The birds. The birds. The birds. Who knows what form they come in? I don't know. It's called the inevitable. The inevitable. His brother-in-law said, sales? You're not going to get mixed up in sales. Who told you you were a salesman? All kinds of stuff that talk people out of a good idea. I don't know. Now, when the birds get some of the seed, you got one of a couple of choices. Number one, you can chase birds. You say, well, I'll go straighten this out. Well, here's the problem if you go try chasing birds to straighten things out. You have now left the field. And the law of averages isn't going to work for you anymore till you get back to the field. This is so important to know. What to spend your time on and what not to waste your time on. There's two ways to have the tallest building in town. One is tear all the other buildings down. Right? Now yours is the tallest, but we call that the hardest of tasks. Right? You might get the first one down, right? The guy's gone. You got his building down. Next one, right? Maybe not be that difficult, but about the third building you start for, a guy's standing out in front, and he says, I've heard about you. Formidable, right? Now you got some problems because you're not known as a builder. You're known as a wrecker, a destroyer. You put everything down to try to make you look good. We call that massive errors in judgment. Best thing to do is to spend your energy and time on the things that count and understand the law of averages, okay? And not chase the birds, but to stay in the field. Here's what it said the wise man did. He ignored the birds, and he kept on sowing. Why? He was so bright, he understood the law of average. Now, here was some more of his experiences. Now he keeps on sowing the seed. Now the seed falls on rocky ground, and the soil was shallow. We call this inevitable. I don't know how to miss this. This is called the stuff of life. It's so important to understand the seasons and the stuff of life and the ratios and the inevitables. This is so important, especially as a leader, so that you can help people through understanding how it is. This is called one of those things. And it said this time the seed takes root and the little plant starts to grow, but the soil is so shallow that the first hot day, the little plants wither and die. You say, wow, what a disappointment. Well, sure, you're going to be disappointed. Some people are going to try so little, even if you've got a good idea. 30 days later, you say, we had this meeting, John wasn't here. So where is John? I said, I don't know. You say, well, I thought sure John had last 30 days. But he didn't. Why? It's called inevitable. Right? And who knows the reason why? John isn't here anymore. Somebody said, boo. And he quit. He quit. First hot day. Now, you're going to be disappointed, especially if it's somebody you like, somebody you know. But here's what you must learn to do as a leader. Discipline your disappointment. This is part of the challenge of life, disciplining the disappointment, understanding the law of averages. Now, here's what it said the wise man did. He kept on sowing. How brilliant. He was so well schooled in the law of average. Now he keeps on sowing, and this time the seed falls on thorny ground. You say, well, how much of this ground can you get? Well, just hang on. It's not the end of the story. Now, this time he sows the seed, it falls on thorny ground, and the little plant starts to grow, but the thorns choke it to death, and it dies. Wow! What's this called? The inevitable. Do you know what the story called the thorns? The cares of life, little cares. Who knows the excuses some people use for not pushing on through and getting the job done? It's called inevitable. Some people are going to try so little. They're going to let other things crowd out the good opportunities. And who knows why? I don't know why. I'm an amateur on this stuff. The key is to take the inevitable and take the obvious. Right? Everybody should take obvious one, obvious two. Right? Study the obvious and not let it unduly disturb you and learn to manage the obvious so you can get on with the more important things in life. Who knows? I called John up. I said, John, where were you last night? We had this meeting. John says, well, I can't make every meeting. I say, why not? John says, well, I got a lot of other things I got to do. I say, what are they? You won't believe the list John gave me. The backyard fence was sagging, and the dogs are about to get loose. You just can't let your dogs run loose. Okay, John. John says the screen door came off the hinge, and you just can't let things fall apart. You got to take time and keep things fixed up. Okay, John. Some extra trash had piled up in the garage. You just can't let mountains of trash take over. You got to take care of your trash. I said, okay, John. On the phone, I can hear the thorns going. Some people have the incredible ability to major in minor things. I don't know why. We call this inevitable. We call it a mystery. It's part of the scenario of life. I'm driving through the little community. John's out there mowing his lawn. He's cussing the weeds, and he's red in the face, and he's about to explode. I said, John, what are you doing? He says, what does it look like I'm doing? I'm mowing this lousy lawn. I said, John, there's all kinds of little neighborhood boys around here. Mow your lawn. He says, they want $5. I'll mow it myself. I'll mow it myself. Okay, John. Okay. Number one, there should be a law against cheating some little neighborhood boy out of $5. Now, why the scenario? The scenario of the story of the sower is to prepare us for the inevitable called the law of averages. Now here's what it says. The sower kept on sowing. He was so bright, evidently he'd been schooled in these numbers of about how many are going to let the birds, and about how many the hot weather's going to take, and about how many are going to let little things cheat him out of big chances. He must have gone through the school because he understood. He kept on sowing. Now here's what it says. The seed falls on good ground. Let me give you a promise as a leader. It always will. Key phrase. If you share a good idea often enough, it'll fall on good people. Why? The law of average. Now, even the good ground had a variety of productivity. It said part of the good ground produced 30%. Wow. And it said part of the good ground produced 60%. And it said part of the good ground produced 100%. What's that called? The law of average. That's the way it is. It's called one of those things. Now, can you find some 100%ers? The answer is yes, but you got to go through the bird and the hot weather and the thorns and care, and you've got to find some way to use the 30%ers and the 60%. And if you become entrusted as a skillful leader and learn the law of averages and learn how to deal with all this, you'll have some 100%ers to deal with, to work with. Or whether it's church or whether it's sports, doesn't matter what it is. If you want to find good people, here's part of the challenge in finding a successful team of people. Jesus had the same purpose, right? And you can't hit them all. Jesus says, I'll take you. And that was Judas. I mean, you can't hit them all. Anyway, to put together a good team, I've got a checklist for you. It's got 4 parts to it. Here's number 1, history. Not a bad idea to check history. Somebody's qualifications to do the job, just take a look. We can't go into too much detail on any one of these, but let me just give you the list. Number 2, check interest. If somebody's interested, they're probably a good prospect. Now, sometimes people can fake their interest, but if you've been a leader for a while, you can be a pretty good judge of whether or not somebody is faking you out on what we call true interest. And you just have to have some face-to-face conversation just to check out to the best of your ability. You won't hit it every time, but you can get pretty good at checking what we call true interest. A group came to Jesus one day and said, we wish to be disciples. He said, gentlemen, you've put your story on the wrong man. They said, wow. He said, unfortunately, I can read your heart. They said, oh, they didn't want to be disciples. They had all kinds of trickery in mind. But he picked up on it right away. And he wasn't faked out by the we wish to be. Now, you might not get quite this good at reading hearts, but I'm telling you, you can get pretty good as a leader in judging somebody's what we call true interest. Here's the 3rd part of the checklist. Check response. Response tells you a lot about someone's integrity and character and skill. If someone says you have to get there how early? You have to stay how late? The break is only 10 minutes. 2 evenings a week? Saturdays? That give you any clues? These are called clues, right? Don't go past these clues. Clues on what we call response. A person's response quickly illustrates their philosophy. We only respond based on what we know, and our attitude and philosophy is so bound up, and we might, be clever for a while, but pretty soon response is going to come truly from our philosophy. And if there's any great errors there in philosophy and attitude, here's one of the places where it shows up in response. And here's the last piece of the checklist in putting together a good team. Check results. Finally, the name of the game is results. How else are we going to judge? That's the final judge. Results. It is the name of the game. Results must soon match quality. You might have a nice guy, but finally you got to have results. Nice, don't get it.